Welcome back to the table. Today, Ryan and I are going to give you a look at Nova Roma. This is the latest one from Stan Kordonski and his publishing company, Half a Kingdom Game. This one is probably, I feel, his most Euro of Euros thus far.
This definitely feels like classic Euro, and it doesn't hurt that the theme is Rome, which is a theme that you'll see in classic Euro games. But it is a Roman game, art done by the Miko, and you'll see a lot of that in the game itself. And it is about building Rome, basically.
Yeah, the big interesting thing about this is how the whole thing is driven, though, with the action selection mechanism. And we're going to spend some serious time on that, but we do want to give you a sense of what's going out here on the board. And just to give you a sense of what's on the table, we've got the main board here with that central mechanism right here where you're going to be placing your pieces, taking actions on the intersections.
Yep.
And then around that are all, of course, the Euro-y places that you're going to be interacting with. There's a few different places here all the way around the board, and you're going to want to be doing a lot of some of those, a little of all of them.
Yeah.
There's points to be scored all over the place.
It is very much a point salad game. I mean, you're getting points for a lot of different things, but you are kind of given some guidance. If you look over here, off to the side, you have your player areas. And everybody has a player board, which kind of starts off the same, but you're going to be building out your estate with tiles. And then everybody has a mosaic board, and this is the asymmetric part of the game. This is where you're going to be inserting your goals. You'll have 3 levels of goals, and this is kind of going to give some guidance to the chaos that's over here, because you can do so much and you can go in so many different directions, but you want to try to complete these achievements and kind of zone in on maybe those specific actions.
Yeah, you definitely want to do that.
Right. It's a lot of in-game scoring, and you're going to get bonuses for completing rows and columns and diagonals, but there are a few twists to this as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. So again, let's talk about that core mechanism and what you're doing. You've got this area right here, which is where you're going to be placing all of your, for lack of a better term, workers.
Yeah.
When you place a worker, say if I placed right here, I'm going to be doing 2 different actions. I can do this action correlating to this tile and this action correlating to this tile. The cool thing is these tiles are variable. Every game you just randomly sort those out. And that gives quite a bit of variability here because there are going to be, throughout the game, growing synergies between some of those depending on maybe some of the cards that you have, things like that. When you place here, you're going to take an action, you're going to take this action. You're also going to take those actions to a power, so to speak. So if it's my first, imagine there's nothing else out here. If it's my first placement, if there's nothing else out there, I can take those actions to a power of 1. I have 1 person there. If it's a second action and I have that, I could take this action to a power of 2. There's also this figure out here, which is going to be somewhere on the board according to this tile here each round, and it's going to move. It's going to give you artificial strength there as well. So in this column as it shows right now, Ryan would have a power of 2 here. I would have a power of 3 right here.
Yeah, and this is representing the Emperor Constantine, and the first player is going to get to choose where they go. You're also going to see these red tokens on the board. This is what keeps the game competitive in a 2-player game, which is what David and I played. These are going to block other actions. So the first player gets to choose where the Emperor is, basically choosing which of the actions are going to be more powerful. But it's tricky because you might want to place him somewhere and think, oh, that's a good spot. But you can't ever take that spot. You're taking spots
it's blocking a space
around him as you go. And in the 2-player game, at least, based on where you're placing and then where you're placing your blockers, it becomes very dynamic. Obviously, that's to simulate the other players in a table, because in a 4-player game, this gets pretty crowded, and you're going to have 3 workers to place over the course of the round going in player order. So you can see that fighting for that first player token is valuable, because having the power to place first is really good. So if I place and then that whole column or row gets filled, you're kind of out of luck. You'll have to find another way to try to get that bonus or take that action.
Yeah, and on the other hand, placing last can also be good too, because there's a good chance you're going to have a really juicy action. Yeah. Now, that all depends, like Ryan just said, on, if I have this in a situation, I doubt anyone's going to let me have one of these spots so I can take a giant sail action.
Right.
But there are some cards and some different things that you can do in the game to sort of artificially enhance that quite a bit. And I'm going to actually talk about the first action or the first tile here. That's the recruit tile. This is one of those that is going to let you kind of change things up, because this is going to let you collect some cards, play a card, and get some of these characters in your tableau that are helping you. These are going to be endgame scoring.
Yep.
They're going to be ongoing. There's going to be a lot of them that are once per round, and you can use them. These all do all the Euro-y things you'd expect them to do, enhancing all of the different things that you do in the game.
Yeah, one key part of the cards is that they can let you take these actions at a higher rating. So if you only have 2 people in a row, you can still take that action at a possible 3 value, which is the highest value. And of course, like we suggested, the better you take the action, the better you do the action. So in this case, you just get a discount. But like in the sail action, which takes you over here to this map of the world, the higher your power, the more you get to move your ships, and you'll be following these trade routes. Again, it's going to give you points, and it's going to give you bonuses that you'll be able to use in the other aspects of the game. I think that's a theme you'll see in all of these actions. They all have their own way to score points, and they all have their own way of giving you benefits for doing other things.
Yeah, the sailing is basically a track that you'll go up to score points and maybe some bonuses. Whereas over here, when you build, this is going to allow you to sort of surround some tiles in order to get some bonuses. Interestingly enough, anyone who has presence around that tile the moment it's surrounded can get that bonus. But you can see here, this is also some area majority scoring at the end of the game for the number of cubes you've put in there. The cool thing about building is when you build, you're going to select one of these building cards up here, pay for it according to the resources on the card, and then place your cubes specifically in that shape. So there is a bit of a Tetris thing going on. There are not sort of polyomino type tiles. You're just using these cubes. But places do run out of space. You can see these here are a 2x2, and there's in fact, I think there's just this one space left right now at this moment for a 2x2.
Yeah, and you'll need resources for that. You can also buy these shipment cards up there. All of that is going to come, or a lot of that's going to come from the trade action, which just lets you buy resources. So if you're not getting your resources in other places, which you can kind of, if you want to play an efficient game, not use the trade action a bunch, but sometimes it's just beneficial. If you've collected a lot of coins, you can just buy as many resources as you want. And of course, this is a game where you're not collecting resources. You've got this little track here on your player board. As you collect resources, you'll just be moving these things up and down this track as you play.
I'm going to bounce over to one of my favorites and let Ryan back up. I'm going to go over here to the race. This is sort of the chariot race in the hippodrome.
Yep.
Again, this is 3 different tracks that you can move up, and there's a few different things going on here. You're going to want to move to the very end in order to score some points, but as you move past certain points, you're also going to unlock some things. You can take an influence, which is a track that you'll keep track of on your player board, and influence is something you're going to be able to spend in a number of different ways throughout. It's very helpful. Or unlock more achievement tokens. Everyone starts with 4 achievement tokens, but you can unlock more to use on that board to get some of those achievements, which are, like we said, significant for some big scoring.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the game is those achievements. So you kind of need to, at some point, do at least a little bit of the hippodrome, a little bit of racing to unlock those tokens, because you can place these tokens throughout the game. It doesn't necessarily matter, even if you've completed all of your 5-point achievements, it doesn't matter if you don't have the tokens to place them. Also, every round you're competing, each track is going to be favored by the Emperor. If you're ahead on that track, you're going to get some extra points too.
Yeah, there's, like we said, there's plenty of places to score points here and there. Some of it's within the game, but I think most of it, wouldn't you agree, is at the end of the game?
A lot of it is at the end of the game. These are done at the end of the game. The points you score for the end of the track are at the end of the game. I think one of the only things you actually score when you complete these rows and columns, which again requires you to come here to get extra achievement tokens.
Yeah.
When you complete them, it's going to give you a variety of things, including points for completing rows, columns, and diagonals as you play. All right, then we're going to jump over here to the ones David skipped, and this is to upgrade your estate and then produce at your estate. You've got your estate over here, and you'll see that mine is kind of upgraded. You're going to be able to upgrade this with tiles. There are some basic tiles and some special upgraded tiles. The action to upgrade is going to get you some influence, and it's just going to get these tiles to place over here and make your estate a little juicier, or you can collect some animals into your menagerie for in-game scoring. But the reason you're going to want to upgrade your estate is so that you can produce at it. You're going to be collecting these artisans over the course of the game, these little gray minis, which look, I love the artwork that's on these
It's
artisans.
my favorite artwork in the game. For some reason, I just love it.
You're going to be able to take these artisans out to your board and produce. And every time you produce, kind of following this same math, you're going to get whatever resources in the row the column, and what you exactly place on. So if you've upgraded, you're potentially getting 3 things. Now, some of these really good tiles can only be used once per game, and you flip them over. But the rest, I could come over here and get 2 wine and a wood every single time I place this. And if you have a stronger power, if I come in at power 3 and I have 3 artisans, I could place 3 guys. And that's another way to collect resources besides just going to the trade action.
Yeah, that is definitely a place where you can start to build one of your little engines in this game. You can arrange those tiles such that you can go to one place. I had one here that gave me an extra horse where I already got a horse. So it's going to give me horses, and I didn't mention this, but the horses are something that you have to spend to cross those benchmarks on the chariot track.
Yeah, and of course, since that's your favorite action, you built an engine that was heavy on horses, and you had an in-game scoring card that scored horses as well.
Yes.
So you can kind of see how you can build into these synergies. You don't need to do everything. In fact, like in our game, David barely built it all.
Right.
So those are all of the basic actions. There are 7 basic actions you can take, but then we do have this last 8th special action here.
Yeah, the patrician is kind of a wild action. When you go into that row or column, wherever they may be, you're going to take that at that power, unless you have some benefits, or at a higher power if you have more characters. The rub here is that you have to spend, this is one of those places where you have to spend some influence. You're going to spend influence to whatever power you're taking the action, or up to it, and then take any of those other actions we've already talked about at that power. It's a very nice place if, particularly in a 3-4 player game, the chariot's gone, or this is gone. You know, those things start to get filled up. So hopefully some of those spaces may be open. If they are, you can do whatever you want. It just costs some influence.
Yeah, it's also the place you can go to take the first player marker.
Yeah.
Normally the first player marker is just going to move around the table, but if you come here, you can spend 2 influence to take that marker. One of the things you're going to want to do is collect influence from other places so that when you get blocked, that you have the influence needed to come here and do that petition action. So you can kind of already see, I think just from even hearing about how those actions are kind of linked together, how it does help to dabble in a little bit of them. But if you just do a little in everything, you're not going to score a lot of points. You need to choose a few to focus on. I focused a lot on building out my estate, and I focused a lot on putting buildings out here on the world map, whereas David had a lot of work done on the chariots. So that is kind of driven, again, by your board here. And also the order that you claim these and the timing of claiming these is an important part of the puzzle as well. So I feel personally like all of this stuff does kind of come together in a very focused way.
Yeah, all of the things interact with each other quite a bit. I don't know, we haven't played it too much, so I don't know if there's any that you don't have to do, but like Ryan said, I neglected some of these things. Like we said, though, you definitely want to use that guidance on there. This is not a game where you're like, oh, that's an idea, but I'm going to do something else. This is directly tied to some significant scoring opportunities. So you're going to want to look at that and at least identify, you know what, I'm going to do this one row for sure so I can score those points. Because the way this scores, you're going to get points for every achievement you have in a row. And then if you've completed that row, you're going to get some points.
Yeah.
There's a lot of points to be scored here, particularly across that 3rd row.
The trick is, though, that you can only place one of these achievement tokens with every turn that you take.
Yeah.
You get 3 turns per round. There's only 5 rounds in the game. So you're only looking at 15 total placements that you're going to get. You have 7 tokens. So you need to be placing at least one of these like every 2 turns if you really want to be able to place all 7. And that also means coming over here to earn your extra ones as well. So managing this and managing that, it's a very tricky puzzle.
Yeah, some interesting decisions along the way as well. In that first row, it's going to give you an extra resource. So you might be thinking, oh, you know what? I'm not going to place my achievements until I can get some of these big point scoring ones. But those might help you in a pinch get an extra resource. I mean, you're going to get quite a bit of resources if you fill that top row. And it might supplement some of the things that you're not doing on the board as you play.
Right, and of course these are all variable, so it's going to want you to do different things. And a lot of the other things it wants you to do is scoring points as well. Like I had one that wanted me to get 6 buildings out here, which is why I went heavy on that. One that wanted me to have 6 people down here in my row, 6 of these cards played. So they're all different for every player, even though there might be some that are the same. They might be in different positions, giving you kind of a unique puzzle every time you play.
Yeah, so that is Nova Roma, the latest from Stan Kordonsky. If you have any questions about it at all, please make them in the comments below. We'll get down there and answer whatever we can. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.